Hello, welcome back. So now we're in part two of this course. And I just want to start off with like a kind of a simpler animation just to get our bearings again and set up everything in Maya again. Just kind of like, touch base with Maya. Maybe you haven't talked to Maya in a while. Maybe it's been a while since you've seen her. So it's best to kind of get in there with that. So we're going to be doing a little bit of animation. And we're going to be using a rig from Animation Mentor, and it is this little scroll rig. It's a nice rig for kind of just jumping and overlapping, and you can get a little bit more personality out of it. I find it to be more fun than the classic bouncing ball. So let's go with that. All right. So let's pop open Maya. We're in Maya 2020, in case you were wondering. And first things first, let's set up our project folder. So let's go to File, Project Window, and then we're gonna do, we're on an old project from like last class. Let's do a new project. So we're gonna click New Project right here, and I'm gonna rename it Art 427, because that's the course number. Comp Anim 2. Let's do Spring 2021, because we're probably going to need to do this for the rest of the time we're teaching. And then it's going to save to wherever location you specify. I'm going to make sure it's going to, let's go to Mikey Boy, desktop. Actually, yeah, sure, let's do this. Course materials. So I'm just going to save it in my course materials folder right there. Boom, bang. And it's going to create and auto-generate all these folders for us. And we're going to click accept. So that automatically creates that project. Now whenever we sort of reference in rigs, it's always going to be looking in that hierarchy first for anything that we have there. So next step is download the rig, the scroll rig, Animation Mentor Scrolls. I will have it, it's on Beachboard, and it's also going to be in our Discord. So download that and then unzip it into this little folder right here. And then we got our this is our rig file right there, and we should be good to go. So with that all set up, we can take that folder and drag it into, actually I'm just gonna Control X. I think it's probably Command X on Mac if I was to guess. And I'm just gonna navigate to that new folder we made, Art 427 Comp Anim 2 Spring 2021. Boom bang, right there. And I'm gonna go to Scenes, and I'm just going to Control V to paste that. Boom, now we got that in there. So if we go to File Open, notice how it automatically brings us to that scene folder, right? So that's all set up for us. Now one more step is to go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, and we're going to be looking for, you can change this from centimeters to meters if that's more comfortable for you. It shouldn't matter for this assignment so much, unless this rig comes in like supersized, but what we're looking for is, where is it? Right here. Time slider. And we're looking for frame rate. Now, if you're going to be animating for film, which basically this entire class is, keep this at 24 FPS, right? I animate primarily in 30 FPS because I work on games, and games are usually capped at 60 FPS. If you're working on something like a fighting game that needs frame perfect anims, then you bump this up to 60 FPS and animate at that frame rate. I'll keep it at 24. My brain's so used to 30 though that it might end up a little bit slower than usual, or faster. My bad. But yeah, so that's all set up there. And one last step before we begin. Right-click this timeline and make sure real time. Playback speed is real time right there. So that means your timeline will scrub forward at the real time that it'd be playing. So you won't see like some super fast animation on this timeline. It'll be at your regular 24 FPS. Also, I've noticed that with Maya 2020, there's a lot of issues with speed when you're like animating. And it has to do with its cached playback. So it basically kind of stores every single frame of the animation in memory, and then so it can play back at a faster frames per second. But when you're animating, you're constantly making changes, so then it has to keep redoing this, and I find it just to be really slow on the system. So make sure this little box is checked off. See how it's checked on right now? Make sure it's checked off. There you go. All right, so now we need to get that rig in our scene. File, create reference. Remember, we always reference in rigs. We're going to open up that animation squirrels folder, and then let's reference this in. Processing, it's going to say, oh, found some mental ray nodes. That's because it's using a different, that's for rendering mostly. It's a different type of rendering software. We use Arnold primarily. And so notice this is the scale the scroll comes in. So see how small our grid is? We might want to go into Windows, settings and preferences again, and we can go to display and change this to meters. See, now we have an idea of how big this guy is. He's not too big. But yeah, so let's go click on all of these. Remember, we're not going to be messing with the mesh very much, right? And we can't even really click on the mesh. Now, do you remember why? You can dig back into those memories. If we find our channel box, mine was just kind of trash for some reason. If you can't find your channel box, it's always this top right button. Boom, channel box. Usually, there's a display layer for this type of stuff. When you download a rig, this one currently does not have the display layers, but most commonly, like the mesh would be on a display layer that would be set to reference, so you couldn't click it. But they've made this one a little bit more foolproof. But yeah, so now we can just click on each of these controls, and remember you have W, E, R for move, rotate, scale. Don't ask me why rotate is not on R. Well, I don't understand why rotate is on E. Never made sense to me, but you know, we deal with what Maya gives us. But yeah, so look at, we got a little bit of little squishy boy. See that? See that? And then it's a really nice, like, look how it automatically handles squash and stretch for us. Like this is just, it's great. You know, it's like an advanced bouncing ball. That's why I wanted to start with this one. It will get us more in the mindset for a sort of more like bipedal animation, right? Like with an actual character in there. But yeah, so now we have this character in our scene ready to go. So that's the setup for animating. If you don't remember, if you're kind of lost, then feel free to look back at the video and check out some Maya documentation. There's just some pretty basic stuff. But yeah, all right, see you next video.